you're aware that lives, aircraft, and the mission are on the line, but you don't have the luxury of feeling all of that in the moment. You got a checklist to run, decisions to make, and you have your crew working to get with you and watching you. What surprised me in those moments is you do not rise to the level of your importance. You fall to the level of your preparation. And all those reps in the simulator, all the emergency drills, all the what if scenarios that we worked through, that is what my brain reached for when an engine failed or a situation changed unexpectedly. The emotion is there, but it gets routed into execution.
Okay, today's guest is Ben Morley, a former Air Force Lieutenant Colonel and C17 instructor and pilot who has spent 27 years making high-stakes decisions around the world. That means 7 continents, by the way, and now helps leaders turn life's biggest why moments into decisive what now action. Ben, thank you so much for coming on today. You and I have known each other for about a year, and we met in the speaking business, and thank you for being a guest.
It is a pleasure, Mind Blue. Great to be here with you.
Well, can you let the audience know a little bit about your career and how you got into the military and why you became a public speaker now and a future author?
Future author. So I served in the Air Force for 27 years. I grew up in Friday Harbor, San Juan Island, which is an island off the coast of Washington State. From there, I was accepted to the U.S. Air Force Academy, recruited to play football. After the academy, I went to pilot training and then chose to fly transports around the world and did so for 27 years, like Blue said, to all 7 continents. And after leaving the military in this transition, I now serve as a consultant to companies to help them solve problems and grow revenue. I'm an executive coach. I am also a speaker, and I also work as an intermediary in a mergers and acquisitions firm on the sell side. That's what keeps me busy.
So you have a lot of T-shirts that you've worn over the years, for sure.
There's a few T-shirts.
But your military career, becoming a lieutenant colonel is no small feat. Like that is you talk about putting the time and consistency in over and over, and eventually rising in the ranks. That's a tough thing to do. And you've obviously operated in different environments all over the world where decisions had real consequences, whether that's with lives or missions or outcomes. What did the pressure actually feel like in those moments up in the air?
The pressure is a mix of feeling fast and slow. In a high stakes moment, pressure was a very physical experience for me, a tightness in the chest, a narrowing of your attention, and a spike of energy that made everything feel both fast and crystal clear at the same time. You're aware that lives, aircraft, and the mission are on the line, but you don't have the luxury of feeling all of that in the moment. You got a checklist to run, decisions to make, and you have your crew working to get with you and watching you. What surprised me in those moments is you do not rise to the level of your importance. You fall to the level of your preparation. And all those reps in the simulator, all the emergency drills, all the what if scenarios that we worked through, that is what my brain reached for when an engine failed or a situation changed unexpectedly. The emotion is there, but it gets routed into execution.
Mm-hmm.
And where the pressure really hits you is after the event. When you've landed, the mission is over, and you let yourself replay what could have happened. And that's when the weight of it really shows up. The what ifs, the did I miss anything, the realization of how thin the margin was.
Oh, you're tapping into so many of what other guests have said, and that is it's about the preparation and being able to fall back on being prepared in the moment. It's not really the moment at the time. When you do land and after a mission, is it, and you start to question yourself, what did I do well? What did I do wrong? Like, do all pilots do that? Like, do you all write things down and you say, this is what I want to do next time? Is this a team meeting? Like, do you have a all conference meeting, or is it just something that you play in your mind?
We always debrief as a crew after every mission. After every single mission, we debrief. And we'll talk about that. What went well, what did not. It's not finger pointing, but it's a post-mortem of all of those aspects, the different segments of the mission, how we could all do better, and what are the things that we need to avoid next time What do we need to empower and bolden further for our next mission? And then there's also that time afterwards, that self-reflection time
Mhm.
as well too, for me as a person. How can I serve the mission and my crew better on the next one?
Well, and your rank at the time, I mean, you were
Mhm.
pretty a high level rank. So it's not like you're able to point like people are pointing the finger so much at you, right? Like you're able to execute and be able to say, "Hey, we could do this better." But did you ever have somebody come in, like let's say a tag or an admiral or a general or somebody come in and say, "What did you guys do?" Like, did you ever feel like you were under the microscope by people higher ups?
We did. Yeah, there'd be some times where our an action might be questioned, but we the leadership, as you know, it goes up through the different levels. Good leadership should, and if there was something questionable that we thought might be queried by an admiral, by a general, or whatnot, we'd be on the phone calling back to our home base
Hmm.
to let our boss know, hey, here's the situation, here's what we did, here's the decision we made, and they would run top cover for us as needed. And you would try to get ahead of it, right? To give the
Hmm.
information up the chain of command rather than somebody on the outside seeing it from the outside and trying to piece together the narrative on what they saw going on. So, yes, you would occasionally see that. And maybe there was a person that might have ulterior motives trying to
Sure.
get the crew on something, but we're the ones that are flying in the tube at the time, making the right decision, the best knowledge that we had,
Yeah.
and we would vet that up together with them. Now, if there was something we needed to think about or do better, of course we would take that in consideration. That's what the post flight was. But most of the time, you were supported by your leadership, by your upper leadership, for you to go and make those best decisions because you're the ones in the moment. You're the ones in the mix. We're not in the 300 level telling them you should have done a run play. I told you. Why'd they throw the pass? Or I told you they should
Yeah.
have done the run play. Right? Those sorts of people.
Oh,
So
well, but then you at your rank and level, like when you saw someone go above and beyond or make a
mhm,
great decision and you were having those debriefs, is that a time that you would give praise to them? Or was it like not in the debrief room? Or like, how did you show your appreciation for somebody going above and beyond or doing a great job or making a decision that, man, that was a tough decision and they made the right decision? How would you reward someone in your crew or on your team in a way? How did you do that as a military career officer?
verbal praise. If you're on the crew bus coming in from the jet, going into the building, and we're debriefing together, maybe in the bus or maybe inside, you pointed that out and you handed that praise out. And that was the praising publicly. But if there's a critique, you would share that privately as
Ooh,
needed. But
that's
if it was
that's
a, yeah,
awesome.
it's just a praise. We're the colonels in the seat, we're the officers with all the tags, the pilot, you've gone to college, you're this, you're this, you're this, right? Tagging all that. But we're together as a crew, and sometimes some of our crew were enlisted folks not that far out of high school. They've gone through trade school and they're a load master on the airplane, responsible for 80% of the aircraft, might I add, but they were younger than us.
Mhm.
But that did not matter. Sometimes the resourcefulness came from the youngest folks, and that was that 360 leadership. It didn't matter what the rank on my shoulder was. If the younger person has a different perspective from maybe one of our blind spots, we'll go with his idea. We,
Oh,
we had a
it's too
situation where we were losing. We were over the Middle East. We were losing pressurization in our aircraft at altitude with none of the right equipment on board to fix it. So we had a leaky aircraft. We had no
mhm.
passengers on board. We were losing pressurization slowly. No place to divert to. We had a long ways to go to get to our destination. What are we going to do? And it was the 20-year-old kid in the back that said, we got a bunch of athletic towels and an igloo full of water. If we just soak the towels and stick them against in the back where the pressure seal is, those will freeze into place and do this. Perfect. And so that's exactly what we did. So that's that resourcefulness over resources,
Mm.
right? I'm not worried about what I wish I had on board. I'm looking at what I do have on board. And he came up with the best idea, and we praised him significantly and bought him dinner for it.
That's where'd you
There
go
you
for
go.
dinner? That's my
We,
question.
we went to a German steakhouse. We were in Germany, so it was
Oh,
great. So,
that's yeah, what your environment is, right? I love that.
right.
Oh my gosh. Well, take me into a decision or a moment that sticks with you where a decision you had to make was without incomplete information, for example.
We were, another war story, we're 30,000 feet over the Pacific, and we had a pretty significant malfunction occur. We had a major systems failure in the C17 aircraft. We're hours from land, we're over the open ocean, and a critical system failed in a way that did not match the textbook scenarios. The instruments were giving us only partial information. The warning lights did not line up with any clean checklist that we had. My co-pilot was looking at me with a kind of decisive black and white answer that the Air Force patches on my shoulder are supposed to represent. But, in that moment, the temptation to, grab the stick of certainty metaphorically and pretend I knew exactly what was happening. No, instead, I did something that went against every heroic, leadership stereotype, if you will. I paused and asked the crew, what is actually happening here that we are not seeing? And we slowed the problem down, treating what we knew as a problem and everything else as a risk. Those are different.
Mm.
And made a series of decisions with incomplete data rather than one dramatic all-in-one move. And it was that combination, owning what was certain, naming what was unknown, and then acting anyway, saved the mission and changed how I think about leadership.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so slow that down, pun intended on that one, and reiterate that because I think that's important. I think people want to hear that is that there's a difference on the risk and how you control the controllables and you move
Right.
on. So can you go through that really quick? What is it that you would want a leader in any industry to take what you just said and apply?
There's a difference between a problem and a risk. A problem is we may have insufficient fuel to reach the destination. That's a problem.
Mhm.
A risk is the weather might change on us en route and we might need to divert. But our brains tend to think everything is a problem and it becomes a burning building scenario for any sort of boardroom or scenario for an executive. Is you need to break those out. What is a true problem right now versus what is my brain telling me it's a risk really, but my brain's trying to tell me it's a problem, and to vet
Mhm.
that out. And so typically what I deal with is I help people ask three questions. What is certain right now? That is your problem. What is only possible? That is your risk. And what is the smallest decision I can make that moves us forward and is reversible if new information shows up?
And I mean that is so important because that applies to so many different whether you're an entrepreneur and you're testing the waters of some new product or a
Right.
service, what does it work? If you're going to have a product launch, if you're going to what works, what doesn't work, what's the biggest risk? I love that. That's so imperative. When you speak to leaders now and especially in executive levels, like is that an aha moment for people just to slow down because sometimes slow is fast?
It is. It is. It, we with the jet, we have MATLA, maintain aircraft control, analyze the situation, take appropriate action, and land as soon as conditions permit.
Say that 5 times
Seems
fast.
pretty, yeah, seems pretty straightforward. So maintain aircraft control, fly the aircraft,
Uh-huh.
analyze the situation, take the appropriate action, and then land as soon as conditions permit. There are tragically stories of aircraft where pilots got so wrapped up in the situation they didn't fly the aircraft.
Mm.
And you can only tie the low altitude record, if you will.
Mhm.
And
Oh, wow. Um,
tragedies have occurred.
yeah.
So maintain aircraft control metaphorically for the executive. Keep what's going on. Keep the lights on. What are we doing right now? Run the organization. Analyze the situation. What's a problem? What's a risk? Bring my board into it. What am I missing? Bring your trusted agents and bring in that
But you have
different
to be
perspective.
vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable enough to do that, what you just said, and humble enough, right? You have to not know
Correct.
all the answers and be willing to take from the 20-year-old in the back who might have an answer that you never thought of. Okay.
That's right. Exactly. All of us are smarter than one of us. And so analyze that situation, then take the decision, then make the decision. We'd say sometimes in flying, if something occurs and the light's flashing and the horns are going off, wind the clock. We'd have this analog clock over that. Just wind the clock, take a moment, take a pause, step back, hold on, pause, wait, see what's going on here. So leaders can get stuck when they treat every risk like a burning building problem and then wait for perfect information. The discipline is to act from what's real, not from what fear is projecting.
Ooh. Well, and I think you added one more thing at the end, and that was that you test it, and then once you've applied it, you might get new information. It might change the entire dynamic or the formula based off of whatever you did. And then you have to reassess. And I think that that is the ability to pivot or adapt in the moment, because you don't know if it's going to work unless you try it. And then once it tries, it could change everything. And so you have to be able to pivot and to adapt at that moment after you've applied moving forward in the direction that you had mentioned, like apply it. And as long as you're taking these small steps moving forward, then maybe something will change, but then to be able to pivot at that moment.
Correct. Implement an improvement, implement a decision, sit back and analyze. Is this getting us the results we want? Are defects going down? Is throughput increasing? Are we increasing the market share? Taking a little bit of time and waiting to see if the results are trending in the direction that we expected based on the actions that we took, and can we reverse these actions?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And being a hummingbird, not a woodpecker, if you will. Being a hummingbird, you're going from flower to flower metaphorically, trying different solutions, trying this out, trying that out. But wait, try that. Does that take effect? Rather than the woodpecker that just hammers on the same piece of wood all day, right? If this isn't working, just doubling down and doing the same thing probably isn't going to make a difference.
It's not going to do anything. My wife is going to love that analogy, by the way. She's a hummingbird fanatic, so she loves that. I do want to press you a little bit on that, and that is that obviously we're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
After a car accident, insurance companies will take every shot they can to leave you with nothing. But at Dubin Law, the game isn't over until you get the money you deserve. So call Dubin Law and add us to your roster today.
That I do want to press you a little bit on that, and that is that obviously in the boardroom or while you're up on the airplane, if you wait too long, there's consequences too, right? Like you can't just hope that somebody else gets on the line and fixes your problem or the risk or evaluate something. So is there a time that is it when you said that you set the clock? What is that, like a minute? Is it 30 seconds? Because I'm sure in an environment of life and death, 30 seconds seems like a year, right? Like, so is there a time that you're like, just take 3 deep breaths and that's enough time to evaluate and go through that entire acronym?
It usually is. Yeah. Maintaining the aircraft control. Are we flying? Who's flying the aircraft? Make sure we're both not heads down in our checklists and nobody's flying. Making sure, okay, Billy, you're flying. Okay, I'm going to work with the crew. Announce it, articulate it, communicate it. Apollo 13, the movie was great with Tom Hanks, and with that real world scenario, they didn't ask for.
I was going to ask you about Artemis, because it would have terrified me to be out in the middle of space and not. I mean, one little thing could go wrong, and you have to be able to fix it. So continue. Apollo 13 with Tom Hanks,
right? With he had the explosion, right? So they had an issue to solve. When Houston was speaking to him, it wasn't again, what would you like to have on board? It was, what do you have on board that is good? And from that working together as a crew and slowing it down, knowing that they had to make a decision there. This was an issue that needed all of their mindset and to work with that resourcefulness. The same with executives as well too. Yes, we need to make a decision. We can't just wait on the stock price to continue going. We're losing market share, whatever the case may be. But to take that period of time, if you will, and then move with that best decision, switching it from why are we in this? Why are we in this situation? I told you we're always going to be moving it from why to what now? What now? Right. And so trying this out, what does everybody else see? Not my decision versus your decision. We make the best decision. All of us agree this is the next step, like with Artemis. They had some of those warnings, and like what was the faulty warning they had for a fire on board?
Mm-hmm.
They talk about getting your attention. You're in a spacecraft with a fire warning, right? But then
Yeah.
they didn't just start throwing levers and firing off, fire extinguisher bottles, what have you. They talked about it. They go, oh, okay, that's a sensor anomaly, right? They talked to Houston or whatever on ground control. They metaphorically wound the clock.
Well, and I think it also allows you to make an educated guess and or decision or step forward. And sometimes if just calming your body and relaxing a little bit, taking those deep breaths and saying, what is the risk versus the problem? And what can I do? What do I have available on my plate to solve this problem? Not like it would be really awesome if I had a hammer, but I don't have a hammer. Like what is actually available? And then start to apply that and throw that spaghetti on the wall. And if it falls, then how do we pick it back up and move it forward? Or if it doesn't fall, then you've solved that problem.
Agreed.
Oh,
It's key to and separate yourself from the situation right now. If you're down on the manufacturing floor or wherever the issue is going on, there can be a tension, there can be an energy in it that is screaming at you to make a decision right now. There may not need to be a decision right now, perhaps in a day, perhaps in a couple of days, but maybe not right now. If you can, try to separate yourself from that physically. Go to the boardroom, go, like with the aircraft, if we could get it up out of the area and go into a holding pattern where we were clear of all the other traffic and we could go into holding, we weren't going to hit anything, we're out of everybody's way. Okay, now we can work the issue together as a crew. Same thing with the boardroom. Separate yourself if you feel this tension that I got to make a decision right now, but you're not ready for it. Separate if you can. Go outside, bring a couple of your trusted advisors and try and articulate and analyze the situation away from where the drama is.
Oh, I love that because not only is it drama on yourself and you're putting that anxiety and that stress on yourself, but you're also creating that for other people. Like you say, let's get to a safe area where you're not in the way of other people. If your car breaks down, you're not just hanging out on I-90 or something like that. It's like get off to the side of the road where you can assess the problem out of the harm's way of other people, because you don't want to hurt other people either. Correct. Let alone take that anxiety on it. Oh, that's absolutely perfect guidance on that one. I love that. Well, okay. So you talk about moving from your why to what now. And I know that that's one of your keynote speeches and like one of your niches that you talk about. What's a personal moment in your life where you have to actually live that and not just teach it now?
Boy, it came from a really unglamorous moment in a parking lot after I left the Air Force. I had gone from being Lieutenant Colonel Morley, C17 instructor pilot, clear mission, clear rank, clear identity, to standing outside a civilian business meeting, wondering if I even belonged in the room that I was supposed to go in and instruct. I remembered sitting in the car that day with my hands sweating on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
The soundtrack in my head was all, why? Why did I walk away from a career I knew how to win at? Why did I trade a defined identity for this? Why does everyone else look like they know what they're doing except for me? It felt that I'd taken off of the uniform and that I'd dissolved into what I now call this caterpillar soup. I was no longer who I was, yet not yet who I was becoming. I was in the middle. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, nothing about the why questions are wrong. They're human.
Yeah.
But they were completely unhelpful for each one of us. So at some point I had to ask a different question. Okay, given that I am here, that I did choose this, what now? What now meant open the car door, walk into the building, be honest about what I brought to the table, and pay close attention to what energized me and what did not, so that I could keep adjusting. And it was not to act like I had an MBA or I had 20 years of experience. I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I think what the win was, as I walked into that room and I became my authentic self at the time, I was able to bring a perspective into some situations that other consultants did not have at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the pivot I coach leaders today, is you honor the grief, you honor the confusion and the disappointment, especially in big transitions, but you don't let why did this happen be the only question you live in. At some point you choose what now. What is the next honest conversation? What's the next small experiment? What is the next commitment I can make in this new reality? And that is where transformation can begin to move.
Well, you hit on like 7 different things. So let me break this down just for a second. So one of those is that it sounds to me like you were going through imposter syndrome and you were like wondering whether or not you had the ability and the credibility to get up in front of these people. You changed from a career of 27 years where you knew everything was a system and a process that you could do blindfolded, into something that you were scared of or you were unsure of, and you were stepping into the unknown. And that in and of itself is one thing. Before we keep going, I would love that what was going on? Your hands were sweaty. What made you open the door? What made you step out and say, okay, I can do this? Because I think a lot of people have been in your shoes and have been terrified of going and asking for that promotion, or going and trying out for a new job that they maybe don't have the right credentials that resume list says that you need to have, or asking for that raise, or going up and asking someone out on a date. Like there's so many points where you're like wondering, how did you take that step out of that car door?
It came from a point of being honest with myself and trying to remember why did I put myself here? Because I knew that there was I enjoyed serving people. There was something more to living a life of quiet desperation in a place where I knew what I was doing, but something inside of me yearned to move beyond the flight suit, beyond the military, that I was empowered and emboldened, and I enjoyed helping people out. I enjoyed solving problems and efficiencies and adding value to people beyond the chapter of what the military could provide me. It's when metaphorically the clothes don't fit as well as they used to, and it's that growth into that next phase of yourself. And I would be denying my authenticity by getting back in the car and driving to the hotel and
giving up.
Well, they canceled the meeting on me, or making up some sort of silly story, right? And I'm sure somebody else will ask her to dance. I won't do that. That will catch up with you later on in the shower, when you're going to bed, like over
oh my God, you talk about a debrief. You talk about a debrief. You're debriefing in your own head about like, did I fail myself? Did I quit? Did I throw in the towel? And that pain and anxiety and fear is almost more overwhelming than just taking the step out of the car door. Right. And you might not have landed, and you might not have done well on that. And maybe they wouldn't hire you again or bring you back, but at least you tried. And knowing that you tried in your head and in your heart, I think is something a lot of people miss. Like the worst thing that can happen is you trip out the door. You don't get the job. The girl says no to you when you ask her out. Like that's the worst thing that can happen. The best thing is that you got it, that you got the job and you actually earned it. And then you were able to, in the moment, leverage your uniqueness, because no other person there, no other coach, no other consultant had the background, the experience, and the stories and the knowledge that you did. And I think everybody needs to know that, because that was one of the other things I wanted to talk about based off the 7 things that you had said, is that it's like leveraging your uniqueness, because it's our differences that make us so special, and that you're never going to be like anybody else. And so when you walk into that room, when you're asking for something, you have to leverage who you are. And maybe they won't like you, but you have to know that you gave your best, because it's just you. You're the only person. It's like leveraging yourself. So let me ask you this. How do you leverage yourself now moving forward based off of that time, right? And all your experience as in the military and the Air Force? How do you now leverage your uniqueness? Because I know your story, and I know, like, let's call it your movie trailer, right? How do you leverage that when you're in front of a group of people that imposter syndrome wants to start to come in just a little bit? And granted, and I have to say this, you have an amazing career. You've done some phenomenal things. So right there, your confidence is up, but it doesn't mean that you don't still feel it. And so when you step into that motion, what do you do to leverage your uniqueness? What is your mantra? What is it that you tell yourself?
It's to identify everything that you so well articulated. It's to identify that risk and name it. Resistance is when your mind fights back. Fear is a shapeshifter. Fear is a storyteller. Fear jumps ahead and tells you she's never going to go with it? Why would she dance with you? Why would she go out with you? Why would they hire you? You don't have that right. And so it tells you this story. Fear is the guardian at the gate, but that's when you know you are on the edge and you're pushing into your authentic self. Ego is identity's bodyguard. But ego is trying to protect the false self. Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't ask them. Don't try that. Don't write that book. Don't write that song. Don't try to dance. But ego is identity's bodyguard, but the identity that it is protecting is the false self.
Oh, I love
so
that.
We remain stuck, right? So we see the movie that inspires us, we hear the song, and we come out of the movie theater, yeah, we're going to do this. And then 2 days later, I'm still shrinking down and I'm not asking for that promotion. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But if I am going to go, ask the girl, do that quick mindset. Hold on, wait. Ego is identity's bodyguard, but it's trying to protect you from that failure. But okay, so what's the worst that could happen? Like what you said, she says no. All right. Well, I know who I am if we need to. And you know you're going to go ask for that promotion, not just off of a whim, but you bring in the reasons why. I've done this for the company. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. And I'm not pounding on the desk, right? But I'm going, right, here's the value that I've brought forward. I would like to continue this. This is why I'm asking for it.
Well, you come prepared. You just already mentioned it. It's like I just don't go up and say, hey, I wanted a raise. And they're like, no, what have you done? Like, why do you expect that? Well, it is because I've delivered these deliverables, these KPIs, this return on investment. I have saved this much money. I have done this much more education. I've increased my skills. When you come to someone with and I don't want to call it a resume, but like a tool set of things that you have applied and that you have grown and proven that you're more valuable, oh my gosh, you're your greatest asset. If you can prove that you've grown and you're more valuable to that person, it is going to be more important to that person. And they're going to be like, you know what, this person does deserve that. Or they do believe in themselves and they can get the job done.
You've articulated that so well. That's what you did at the University of Washington with business school, isn't it? When you
Yes, actually, that nice plug in on that one. Yes, that is exactly. I did not get into the business school a couple of times, and I had to go up to the dean. I was like, but I came prepared, right? I had made the dean's list every quarter. My grades were great. I didn't get in. And so as a result of me asking, the worst thing that they could have said is no again. He had 2 slots available and he gave me that slot. And so once again, but I didn't just walk in and say, hey, I want to be in the business school, give it to me, right? I had to earn myself or prove that I could do it. And I had to take the chance. And that was scary because most people aren't willing to go up and make an appointment with an adult or a dean and they feel all out of place or like they're uncomfortable. Just go. The worst thing that he could have said was no. And the best thing is he said yes. And that changed the trajectory of my life. That one decision, that guy giving me that one chance at UW changed everything for me. Got me to go to school and college in Tokyo. It got me on the all world team, all collegiate team. It got me into Starbucks. Like everything on my life changed from that one little decision that someone else gave a chance to me, or they gave me the opportunity based off of me taking a chance and stepping outside of my comfort zone and doing that. So thank you for that. But yes, exactly. You have to come prepared.
It's that, right? And then you start everything as you just said. You start looking at what you have is so unique to you, that superpower. And that's what I've been able to do with the companies coming forward. There's some tremendous consultants out there who are trained up, but they don't have the same viewpoint. And this is where when I think it was with that company that I walked into and so I got my sea legs metaphorically and I started teaching and I made some connections with the class. One of the groups in the class found a $64,000 savings in 30 minutes. So I would teach, they'd break up into groups and apply it. They brought projects in. So I teach, apply, teach, apply, teach, apply. And I'm talking to this group and they find, and they're trying to map something else. This was an Easter egg on the path. They go, hold on, wait a minute. If we just did A to B to C to D, and they're looking at me and I'm looking at them and they're like, and they carry, that's $64,000. And it was just right there. But had I not pressed into getting out and opening the car door and going inside and putting down my bag and I'm rehearsing mechanically, hi, my name is, I'm here for, right? But then you start moving into who am I, right? You start becoming yourself and you start relaxing and then start making connections. And the company was thrilled. That was just one group, one savings, one 30-minute. If you had not asked the dean, had I not gone into that room,
Yeah.
right? And so that fed itself. It's these little things that'll start. The fear never goes away, probably going on stage, right? But preparation will help. I'm aware of it, and that fear can now become a friend. It's not resistance. It goes, okay, I know that I'm pushing into my authentic self and I'm on the edge. I'm pressing in. I'm pressing a little bit more weight on this rep than I have before. I get it. I know that it feels different. I understand that. But fear is a friend, but I have prepared for it the best way I know how.
Oh, that is so important. And it's like what you also said is that when you walk in and you basically allow them to solve the problem. It's asking the correct questions too, because you don't have the answer of everything, right? Like it's like sometimes you have to leave it up to other people to brainstorm and think because they know more than you, right? Like it's their business, it's their company, they know the answer, but asking the right questions gets the synapses moving and start thinking like, oh, and they saw it themselves. And then it's this giant epiphany and like, oh my gosh, that totally works for me. Right.
Right. But it came from the deep background of flying and the aviation, the philosophies of how we would fly the jet and handle missions was what I brought in that was different from other consultants. No shade, no criticism. I just brought a different angle that resonated with these groups that allowed them to find those savings and move forward. So.
Well, and when they realize that and they're like, wow, I'm assuming that gave you kind of a confidence boost in order to say, I am in the right shirt. I am in the new flight suit, right? And sometimes it's just landing the first one is the most difficult, right? Landing the first giant keynote speech is the hardest thing, or landing the first guest on the podcast is the hardest thing. And it's like, or getting your first record label or whatever it is. It's like the first is usually the hardest. I love when rich people, they always say earning your first 10,000 is the hardest or first million is hardest. I'm like, well, I'm still trying. Like,
right.
It's like, that's the hardest. But once you do it, you have those confidence anchors and you have that ability, like the fear is still there, like you mentioned, but you also have this slight confidence and momentum that's moving you forward and saying, you know what, I think I can do this. And I think that I can leverage myself because I do have value and I just have to be able to show that if I come prepared.
Right. Yes. It's so true. It was learning that the mission didn't change. The people did. I'm no longer wearing a flight suit. I'm wearing, a business suit. But solving problems and helping people has been the same. It's just rather than flying missions worldwide, it's now missions to help solve this problem, how to bring more value to the company. And you're right. It becomes that metaphorical handhold on the wall. Okay, now I've got one handhold. If I can find one, I can find two. Right? You still do the debrief afterwards. Okay, how could I have said that a little better? Right? You're not hard on yourself, but just how do I improve this for tomorrow or for next week or for them? And you're exactly right. And you start moving in your authenticity. Right?
Well, and it's filling those new shoes and having the confidence to be able to move forward and say, okay, I do have this. And so as you gained more confidence moving forward and landing these jobs and making a difference and a real impact within these teams, like what is one simple shift that most teams are missing that could create real impact right now?
I think it's identifying the season of transition. That's when they tend to get stuck, if you will. People don't get stuck because their transition is happening. They get stuck in how they interpret their transition and what they do with their discomfort. I think that tends to be something that I see. There's 5 seasons in life. There's winter, spring, summer, fall, and transition. Right? It's the season in between seasons. And
this kind of ties into your book too, right? This is kind of the butterfly soup, or excuse me, caterpillar soup at 30,000 feet.
Right. It is. It's that.
Okay. Can you kind of dive into like what your book is about, like what the idea behind that is?
The book is about transformation. It's about transformation using the story of a caterpillar to a butterfly. And as we know, and we've seen the chrysalis for a caterpillar, chrysalis hanging from a branch or from a twig becomes this beautiful butterfly. And we think it's a beautiful process. And to a degree it is, but we don't know what goes on inside that chrysalis. I use the term cocoon. If you were to open up the cocoon, you would not see a caterpillar with wings. Oh, I see what's going on. Close it up, all good. No. What you would see is best described as caterpillar soup. The caterpillar completely dissolves. What it was no longer is. And it's that transition phase, that dark night of the soul, that isolation in the cocoon is what the book is about, is that transformation aspect of who we were to who we're becoming, but we're not that yet. I've let it go of who I was, reaching out with the other hand in the dark for another version of me that has not come yet.
And
it's
that
in between phase.
And that's the terrifying moment, right? The unknown, stepping off into the unknown is terrifying. And whether it's you're in space like Artemis, or whether you're underwater and you're in complete darkness, or you're deciding to change your flight suit and go into something that is completely unknown to you, that is a terrifying moment. So for someone who is stuck and hanging on right here, right now, and they want to reach for that, what is it that you would tell them to start doing right now? What is one thing that they can start doing today to make that small step forward, to know that and believe in themselves that there is something else out there? And I don't mean the grass is greener on the other side all the time, but like if somebody really believes that they want to follow that direction, what is the one thing that they need to do, or that they can do right now to start changing their lives and reach that goal?
If somebody listening wants a simple self-check, I'd ask 3 questions. Number 1, what role or story am I protecting right now that might actually be over? Number 2, what do I secretly gain by staying stuck where I am? Some people just get that. And if this confusion is a cocoon, not a catastrophe, what small what now step could I take this week anyways?
And what are some examples of those?
That would be identifying where you want to go. What are my skill sets? And sometimes I might need to ask a spouse or a good friend, what do you see?
Having a confidence team.
Right.
100%.
There's things we know about us that everybody else knows. There's things we know about us that nobody else knows. There's things people know about us that we don't know or we don't see. That you're amazing with animals. You connect with kids seamlessly. You can take complex subjects and articulate them simply. Tim Ferriss on one of his podcasts talks about he just has this innate ability to invest into startups, right? And he's done really well with it. And he doesn't see that as a gift. All of his friends like, oh my goodness, you're incredible. You just have this innate ability to know what to invest. It's asking your friends around you. If you're blind, you're like, I'm in the cocoon and I don't know what I might be good at. What do you see? And to ask for their honest advice on that. And then to go, am I stuck, and am I remaining in my stuckness? Because there can be some comfort in that as well too. People can get stuck trying to protect an old identity that no longer fits. Maybe the CEO who loses the title, the founder who sells, or the military officer who retires. We confuse this role ended with, quote, I ended.
But it's not.
No. So instead of asking who I am now beyond this job, we can pour enormous energy into defending something that's already over. I have an owner of a business who actually torpedoed the sale of his business that pretty much looked like a guaranteed sale because he couldn't imagine who he'd be without it.
And you talk about people going into retirement and thinking that, like, I always think about like a professional baseball player or a football player. And we've had some major league athletes on the podcast, and we have Olympians. It's like, what does life look like after something that is completely tied to their identity? And that is, it can be terrifying. You're lucky if you can get into sports broadcasting, or you could do something along those lines because your career is different. But for most of them, it's terrifying because that's what they know and that's what that is. So what is the one thing that you would want them, or one small shift that you would say, this could change everything for you, and whether or not you stay within that industry or that job title, like what is that one shift that they can do, or what would it be for them to gain the confidence to move forward? And it sounds to me like surrounding yourself around people, a confidence team that maybe you could shoot ideas back and forth and realize that you are valuable enough. And it's like you do provide value, whether or not you have the title or the flight suit or the Super Bowl ring or whatever it is. Like, what is it that one shift would be that you would tell them to do if they feel stuck?
Identifying those tangible talents that are manifesting themselves currently within your role as a professional athlete, as a singer, as an ice skater, as a business owner. You're a professional athlete because of your dedication, because of your discipline, of your commitment, of your focus, of your communication, of your ability to take correction and guidance from a coach. Right? That's what makes you the professional athlete. It's just manifested itself in professional athletics.
Mm-hmm.
Those skill sets will manifest
Transfer.
and translate into business, into being a middle school teacher, into whatever you would like it to be.
Mm-hmm.
Trade the uniform out with another one. That's who you are. It's just manifesting right now in professional athletics or whatever.
Oh my God, I love that, Ben, because that is so true. Because just because, like, when I went from being a strength coach and working with Olympic athletes, and teaching CQB or something like that, someone asked, like, you're about to give up a career that you've worked really well and it's hard, and now you're jumping over into something that's completely new. And my wife and another friend of mine told me, they were like, you're not jumping from one mountain to another. It's actually, you're jumping from like the mountain to the other top of the mountain. It's like maybe you have a little bit more to jump over, but it's not like you're starting from scratch. Because as a strength coach, I was teaching classes of hundreds of people or 1,000 people. I was having I was having improv. I was doing so those skills then transferred to me becoming a motivational keynote speaker. I'm still doing the same thing, just on a different platform. And they might look and be different title-wise, but it is the skills that gave me the confidence to be able to succeed at what I'm doing over here. And I think a lot of people are afraid to take that jump because they don't see what you just said, which is that they have the skills, the knowledge, and the ability. They just don't see it as the title difference. And I think that's so great that you brought that up.
Thank you. It's identity versus role.
Yes.
And it's what forced me to confront something I'd mostly ignored for 27 years. The difference between my role and my identity, between Lieutenant Colonel Morley and who Ben actually is when the rank comes off. And that's the same for Blue or Susie or Billy or Tommy. And it's that seasons come and seasons go, right? Kids grow up and kids leave the house, right? Athletes retire. The season where I finally had to separate what I did from who I was. And once you start untangling role from identity, a lot of the transition begins to make more sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What led you to write your book?
It hadn't been something that I'd considered to become a writer.
Uh-huh. We're on the same page in that way.
I think to put this down into words, to be able to get my thoughts and lay it out, what led me to write it was this collision of really two things: my own messy transition out of the military.
Yeah.
And then watching executives go through their own versions of that same cocoon phase without language or a map. So I thought that I'd understood change, combat missions, global operations, big organizational shifts, but leaving the Air Force showed me a very different kind of turbulence. The identity, the fear, the letting go of a role that had defined me and walking through that disorienting middle where nothing feels solid. And then I started coaching business owners and CEOs and founders. And then I realized, wow, they're going through the same thing, different context, but same cocoon. And I kept hearing some of the same questions. Why does this feel so confusing? Is something wrong with me? Why can I lead others through change, but I feel lost in my own?
Yeah.
Right. And the book came out of that desire to say, no, nothing is wrong with you. This is what real transformation actually feels like. And here's a language and a framework for walking through it instead of bailing out.
Oh, well, and basically what I'm hearing you say is that through your experience in your career and all of the missions that you've gone on, is that you saw that in civilian life and executive life, and you saw a problem and you had a solution to it. And that solution you've now implemented into a book, which will release on May 20th, by the way. And you just wrote it down, and it was a simple process that translated not only onto pages, but what you also speak about from the stage.
It is correct. Yes, it became the guide I wish I had at 30,000 feet over the Pacific when everything I thought I knew about leadership really came apart. And in that unraveling, something more honest and more useful started to emerge. And that's what was the genesis for writing the book, to help others out.
Well, and everybody has problems and everybody has challenges, whether you're in the boardroom or not. And when you take a step back, because you had already mentioned this, and take a breather, realizing like the worst thing that can happen is X, right? Okay, so then let's calm ourselves. But there has been a moment in your career where you had an instance that was life-threatening, under pressure, that you had several unknowns about. Can you tell that story of being on a secret mission, basically?
We were flying classified cargo out of a location that was such a priority that the White House was notified of our mission and was following our progress in the Situation Room. And I was over the Atlantic Ocean descending to perform a necessary yet hazardous procedure, which is a midair refueling. Air refueling is like trying to siphon gas from a car traveling at 350 miles an hour, except the car is a massive flying gas station, 200 feet long, and we're flying just 12 feet apart, 6 miles high, sometimes in the clouds. And I'm descending through the clouds over the Atlantic. Now, this isn't an older aircraft. It's the steam gauges. We have no GPS. There's no radar coverage over the ocean. We're just simply going to two waypoints 100 miles apart, and then we effect a rendezvous from there. And he's descending and I'm descending. We're both in the clouds, and I'm running checklists with my crew, and something doesn't feel right. Right, I have my analog gauges again. I don't know where he's at. Where are you guys at? Okay, we're over here. Okay, I'm talking to him on the radios, and we're running stuff in my aircraft. It's just not landing with me. And there came this gripping point when I realized he was not heading to his coordinates 100 miles away. He was actually heading to my coordinates on a collision course in the clouds over the Atlantic, no radar control, with a closure rate of 860 miles an hour, and I'm the only one who's realized it. That was a gripping moment.
And I don't want the audience to feel like it's a cliffhanger. So tell the end of the story. He's lived, everyone.
This is where time can speed up and slow down. And all in that same minute, I just immediately grabbed the controls. There was no time for talking. And I put the aircraft in a steep right bank off of our flight path just to change the vector away. 2 of my crew members fell down in the back. They weren't strapped down. And after some salty language over the intercom, I'm on the radios and I call the other crew and tell them they're going to the wrong coordinates, stop your descent, turn immediately. And all this happens within, seconds.
Wow.
And once everybody figures out what's going on, and then there's this heavy pause over the radios as everybody came to realize what almost happened. We were probably 25 to 30 seconds away from impact. And so we got everything sorted out. We still had to fly the aircraft and get the mission. And so we still effected the rendezvous. And normally there's chatter over the radios. We were doing, talking to the other aircraft. It was pretty tense. It was pretty tense on this one. But we we got our gas. We continued on. We finished the mission. And it was a couple days later, it's after the mission. And here's that debriefing, right? And I had forms and people I could call. And we all knew on my end that you could do some real damage in filing a report. There's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And so I didn't do any of that. And I got on the phone with that aircraft commander from the other jet. And a couple days later, he knew what he did. They knew what they did. But they were all very experienced. And we just talked about it over the phone. And that was it. We kind of shook hands over the phone, and that was all. And I knew for the rest of their careers that would never, ever, ever happen again. And I knew that. And to walk through a situation like that and handle that and move forward, but yet empower the other person. I know that they know, and there's no need for disciplinary, and they move through their transition season, and we're all better for it.
When you say transition, and that's the transformation, what you're right about in your book, and it is sometimes shame is enough, and just knowing that you messed up and taking responsibility for it is enough, and you will never make that mistake again. And you don't need to make a big deal out of it, because sometimes that's all that needs to be said. And you obviously did that. And so what I'm hearing is that if you could live through that, any boardroom person can get through anything and not getting a job. Like, those are some moments under real pressure, life and death. And if you can take a second to breathe and work through it, then that's the answer.
That is exactly right. Take a moment, pause, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is because you're talking about the C17 transporter, and that is what comes to my mind is in Mission Impossible when Tom Cruise does a halo jump out of C17. And so I wanted to just quickly ask, do the movies get it right? Or is it pretty spot on what can and cannot happen Hollywood-wise?
They get most of it right. And so, yeah, halo jumps out of the back. Yeah, those are legit. Those happen. Or you're wearing oxygen masks and wearing the gear, and you're working with certain individuals that are in our military. Yes, some different units. That's exactly right. There's going to be an element of Hollywood to help out with that, but yeah, that was pretty accurate.
What's the most items that can fit in there? Like, off the top of my head, like what can you cram into a C17?
You can fit one tank. It was built to carry a tank, and we had never carried a tank around and so my crew members, we put a mission together and met up with some Marines down in Southern California, and they put a tank on just to see what it was like. And the Marines liked it. So it was great. So they brought a tank out to the airport, and we put the tank on, and we're following the procedures. And they flew it around the pad. I'm like, wow, we were pretty heavy. And okay, cool. Fit a tank. It was good. So they took it. It was great training for everybody to do that. I've carried 3 helicopters at once. A buddy of mine carried Keiko, the killer whale. In the early days, he carried a killer whale, a live killer whale that flew up to Iceland, and they moved it. So that was early in the C-17's career. So I have a few of my friends that flew that. So yeah.
Well, and you guys do humanitarian work too. The military does too. It's not just like secret missions or military missions. It's like you do a lot of work for other countries, and you spread a lot of community bound things like food services and things. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
We have some humanitarian missions that are so heartwarming that don't make the news, unfortunately. Sometimes we have a Denton cargo program that was generated by a senator named Jeremiah Denton way back in the day, and we can take older ambulances or fire trucks or x-ray equipment, and it can be donated to other countries. And we have done so where a fire department's upgrading their fire truck, if you will, and it's all above board and legal, and we'll go and pick up that fire truck, usually with members from that fire department here in the U.S., take it down to like Honduras or some other country, and we'll land the biggest aircraft that's ever landed at their field. They bring the mayor out and the band out, and everybody comes. We land this giant $230 million aircraft, and we open the ramp and drive off a fire truck, and with our team that stays there and trains up their fire department, over 2 or 3 people crying. They've never had stuff like, and we just give it to them, and there you go. And thank you. And we don't plant a flag and put up a strip mall. We come and rebuild. I've rebuilt when hurricanes have come through and have taken out a bunch of the bridges or wiped out villages. And there's been times where I've been on the ramp and it's kind of the snapshot where the army was there and we had Humvees running. We had a couple of helicopters. It looked like a Hollywood scene. The guy just said action and there's guys moving all around and my jet's being refueled and you pause and you wait and you stop and go, we're here to rebuild this country after the hurricane and we're all going to pack up and we're all going to leave. And we're doing it just to better them out, to help them out, to improve their lives.
Well, and that's got to fill your reward bucket too, knowing that you're making a difference, not only just within our country, but then in the world, right?
Those are wonderful, heartwarming stories to help your fellow person out. Yeah, you find out that regardless of language or flag that we wear, that a lot of us are all exactly the same, and we all love our kids and all like to have a great time and helping them out. That's been wonderful to see this world just a little bit smaller.
Absolutely.
Yes.
What's a moment in the Air Force, in your Air Force career, looking back now, that you could completely laugh at?
Oh my goodness!
The killer whale one is pretty good, though, even though you didn't do it.
Yeah. The killer whale. The killer whale was pretty good. We had prepared to fly a tactical mission into a field, and so we planned on it. We were deployed location, very focused, tactical arrival, getting everything right and all this stuff. But it turned out to be completely unnecessary. I briefed the crew. We executed this beautiful, aggressive arrival. I'm feeling pretty good about it, only to find out that the threat picture had downgraded hours earlier and nobody had pushed the update to us. So really what we did was this high energy textbook arrival for an audience of exactly no one, no threat, no observers, just a few very confused ground folks like, who are you guys and why are you working so hard? What was all that for? So, okay, well, now I can laugh about it. It's such a perfect picture sometimes of how the military and honestly business can work.
Yeah.
Right? You prepare for the worst, you execute with discipline, and sometimes discover the world has quietly moved on while you were doing everything right.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I have one more question for you for the day, and that is like most people would never ever be able to sit up in the cockpit while it's flying. While any plane is flying, only pilots and or like crew members and or like flight attendants can have that opportunity. And I know that my wife has been able to do that so many times. She talks about like seeing the northern lights or seeing a city or even seeing your home from 10,000 feet, right? And it's like these little things that you might be able to see. And I know out at JBLM, you have Mount Rainier and you have like the greatest view ever of that mountain. And you wouldn't know it unless you'd ever been on base, right? So can you tell me what is the greatest thing or the feeling of being up in the cockpit that most people would never know?
To be adding value through the aspects of the mission that we're flying, to pinch yourself and go, I get paid to do this, to be on a mission at night when the Hale-Bopp comet was going through years ago, and we turned all the lights on. It's at night. We're up at altitude. There's no dust and particles, right? And so you're 6 miles up. So the air is a lot clearer. We turned all the cockpit lights down. And so we could see the northern lights. We could see the Hale-Bopp comet. We could see all the lights up there. And I remember I was listening to the BBC Radio News Hour through the headset and eating a chef's salad. And you could see the lights of the different cities out hundreds of miles away. And you're like, this is pretty cool.
Awesome. That is awesome. So, oh my gosh. I love that. Well, and that's an experience that most people would never experience.
Right. It's that. It's seeing all the mountains from Baker all the way down to Hood on a clear day here in the Pacific Northwest, because you can see them all from altitude. Baker, Rainier, Adams, St. Helens, Hood. You can see all of them. Yeah.
There's something that you've seen traveling the world that stands out more to you, like whether that's Antarctica or like what is something that you have seen from the air that's like, man, it's just like Artemis, seeing the moon, the view of Earth from the moon with that landscape. Like you can't take a picture of it. You cannot take a picture and make it do justice. And so is there something that you've seen around the world where you're like, wow?
So much beauty out there. Antarctica's got to be it because it's so unique. It's such a unique mission. There's only a few Air Force units that actually support missions and operations down to Antarctica, and to look out on the vast expanse of ice and glaciers and know that few, if any, humans have walked anywhere on anything that you see down there. It's just untouched and raw and beautiful. And it's tremendous. What an amazing continent to be looking at, and the different ice fields and crevasses. And you know that it's massive from this altitude, and just the beauty of it was really stunning and never got old for all of the times that we flew down there. That was really something.
Wow. Okay. My last question, I've lied to our entire audience, and that would be, what is something about leadership under pressure that would surprise people that you would want leaders right now to take with them?
That it's not all about you, but it is about you. That you have the skill sets to problem solve what you're currently going through because of the role that you're currently in. To be kind to yourself. If you find yourself stuck, it's okay. You're not alone. It can feel alone. Leadership is lonely. But to press on into the toolbox that you have and make the next best decision you can make, bring other people into the situation with you, and know that you add value through who you are as a leader. There needs to be a leader from your company. There needs to be, and you're it right now. Ooh. And that speaks volumes to who you are. And know that you add value by problem solving, or even if things are going great. Mm-hmm. Get to know your people. Get out from behind the desk. Go meet your folks. Know what makes them tick, what ticks them off, and what tickles them. Know their right. Know their names. Get to know what their spouse, if they're married. Get to know their spouses. What are their kids' names? Make a list of that. Find out more about them.
Ooh,
find out when their birthday is.
Yeah.
Right. So that when you so that they see past the company. They know that you see them.
Yeah. You make them feel like seen, heard, valued, and like they matter. But then it's applying that, like what I talked about, the 3 to 5% edge, about going above and beyond and meeting them where they're at, right? And learning about them, making a real and genuine connection with them, and unraveling that layer. I love that tick, though. It ticks them off and tickles them, and what makes them tick, right? I love that. But it's putting the time and effort into it to know your people. And that is what makes you stand out. That's what you have the job because somebody believes in you, and people want you to have that spot. And you've risen to the occasion already. And you had mentioned something earlier, and I want to go back to that very quickly. And that is that when you took that step out of that car door and you went in and you went and pitched your consulting services, they don't want you to fail. They asked you there because they believe that you might be able to solve their problem. So right there, that is a confidence anchor that you should take with you, because like speaking from the stage, the audience doesn't want you to fail. They want you to succeed. They want to be entertained. They want to learn something. They want some takeaway. So already everybody's on your side. And if you can believe that in yourself, and knowing that, like, you've earned the right to be able to be there, they already want you in some way. And so it's like, if you're having a discovery call with someone for work or anything, they already are interested. And so that should calm you just that little bit to be able to take that anxiety and throw it out and take that step out of that car door and move forward. And we had a guest, Sandy Zimmerman, talk about being on the American Ninja Warrior, and she was sitting out in the parking lot and she was afraid to take that step out of that car. Right. And it's like, and it's the person that does take the step forward every single day, moving towards that goal, that it just doesn't quit. Because the only way that you can actually fail is that either you quit or you die, and might as well be stepping towards the goal.
Precisely. That's well said. I think with leadership, what might surprise some people is that much of it feels like doing something very simple things extremely cleanly while your nervous system is screaming at you. It's for Sandy to get out of that car door, but to know that she qualified, she was there. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. No, and that's
the cockpit or the boardroom crisis, great leadership under pressure, usually boring up close, but she qualified to be there. wasn't just
Mhm.
generic person. Anyway, you being on stage, you've qualified to be there and everything like that.
Mhm.
Naming what's actually happening, running that checklist, asking one good question, making the next decision, and keeping the team's field of view wider than your own fear. Pressing in as you start to interact with the team, as she gets out of the car and starts interacting with other contestants, and okay, I'm not the only one that feels that way. Same thing with my imposter syndrome. And then you start connecting with the group. Okay, yep, I'm paid to be here. Little by little, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? Then you're returning to your fundamentals. It's the
Yeah.
next
But
actionable
that's the
thing.
preparedness, right? And that's what you talked about, is that, like, as long as you're preparing, you fall back on all of your reps that you put in, and you nailed the hammer, or the hammer on the nail on the head with that one for sure. I totally butchered that line. That's okay. I love it. Okay, where can people find out more about you, your speaking business, and when can we purchase your book?
You can find out more about me at my website, benmorley.com. That's BENMORLEY.com. I am active on LinkedIn, and my book will be officially released on May 20th. We will be providing links on where people can buy it starting on the 10th of May, and I will be sending information out through LinkedIn and other channels to allow people to buy the book as we release it there on the 20th of May. I'm so excited for that.
Well, and that's an accomplishment, Ben, and I'm proud of you, and I'm excited that we have met and that our paths have crossed, and I'm just excited for the difference that you continue to make in this world, and from whether it's on the stage or now behind text, because your book is going to be awesome, and I've been lucky enough to receive a book online, an e-version. So I'm super excited to dive into that. So I will know more about it before everybody else does. So I'm super excited about that. But thank you so much for spending a few moments of your time with us, giving us some fun stories, some laughable moments, but some great takeaways on how to handle yourself under that pressure and to slow yourself down, and just to take a couple seconds to breathe and slow it down and moving forward. And I love that, Ben. And I love what you're doing. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, my friend. What a pleasure to spend this time with you. Thank you so much.
All right, Stud. Keep making a difference in this world, brother.
Thank you. I will.
All right. Thanks, man. If this episode brings you value, or you know someone who could benefit from it, the best way to support the show is by sharing and subscribing. It's completely free and helps us reach more people. And if you have any questions, feedback, or guests you'd like me to interview, drop a comment while you're there. I'd love to hear from you. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in. And let's continue sharing optimism and positivity.